my name is Beverley Duckworth, and this piece installation that I've created here is called Residue, and the details of it are just on that pillar there. So in my art practice, I've always worked with some form of organic material. So I used to work a lot with dust, which of course is mainly made up of our skin and our hair, and I also worked with discarded hair. But a year and a half ago I started experimenting with using live matter like seedlings in my work, and this was actually prompted by some writing that I read by a woman called Kay Lewis-Jones, and she talked about how seeds as being subversive agents, like they basically move into little cracks and unexpected places, and they wait for the optimum moment to then sprout up. And that really spoke to me in the way that seeds sort of have to, like, you know, go to lengths and to get around all the concrete that we're sort of paving over everywhere with, and they sort of sprout through the cracks. So that's when I started working with seedlings in my work. So I began experimenting with growing seedlings on odd things, on like human-made things, and also on things that related to our bodies, because my practice working with dust and hair had always been related to the body as well. So I tried out growing seeds on old knitted blankets and old tights, and I was sort of also wanting to explore our disconnection, the human disconnection with what we call nature. And when the opportunity for this space came up, thanks to Hypha Studios, who have enabled us to have this amazing space, I wanted to create a site-specific installation which really responded to the space, and also was related to the fact that the space used to be a clothes shop that was now disused. So that was sort of the starting point for me with this work. And with the work I created, there's obviously the reference to landscape and also to sort of waste dumps and the debris of fast fashion. And actually, I also used some of the remnants from Madeline's piece in my work, which felt like a good sort of cycle to do. But when I was creating the work, I was also thinking about humans' relation to soil, and the way that we treat it as something to utilise. We spray pesticides on it. We try and get it to be as efficient as possible to produce food and things for human consumption, rather than something that we actually have a two-way relationship with and that we need to nurture. And actually soil is alive, it's full of organisms, and we depend on it for our existence and our survival. So an important element of this work also for me is the fact that it needs care and maintenance and tending. So I have to come in every day to water the work regularly and to look after it. And that ongoing care takes time and maintenance, and that's something which is sort of invisible and overlooked in our society. So that's for me also part of the work. And also the work is durational, so it's going to obviously change over time of the course of the exhibition. It's already sort of changed. If anyone was here at the opening on Thursday night, it was quite grey, and now it's begun to today, when I took off the sort of green, the covering I put on it at night, it's like transformed to green, and it will continue to grow over the course of the exhibition. And so for me also in the work, sort of time and slowness becomes important, and I see seeds as being slow things. So here it's like slow seeds on fast fashion. And all the seeds that I've used in the work are edible, so I've used about 6 different types. So there's like linseed and red cabbage and red radish and coriander and chia. So there's a whole range of edible seedlings here. And in about 10 days time it'll be quite bushy, and I'll start cutting the seeds and people can eat them. So there's that sort of that cycle there. And I think the last thing that I wanted to say is that working with seedlings in my art practice brings a precariousness to the work, because you sort of don't know quite what's, as people will testify, you don't quite know what's going to happen. Are they going to sprout? Is it going to work? When are they going to sprout? Will it turn green? Are they going to die because we put the heating on? So there's that sort of precariousness to the work. And I've had an allotment for many years, so I'm a grower, and I've grown my own food for many years, and so I've sort of witnessed that in my allotment, where one year I'll plant sweet corn and it's amazing and it flourishes, and then the next year I plant even more sweet corn because it went really well last year, and then it sort of, it has a really bad year. So so nothing is certain when you're working with seeds and growing. It's precarious, and so for me, bringing living plants into my work, it brings that element with it, which I feel is really reflective of the increasing precariousness of our existence today. So that was also something which sort of runs through my work. So that's all I wanted to say about the work, but I don't know if anyone's got any questions.
I don't know if you said this, but I was just wondering if seeds grow better on some fabric than others. Did you say that?
No, I was just interested. Yeah. So no, they do. So this is a mixture. Some of these, well, quite a lot of the materials here are synthetic, so they're man-made, and actually they're petroleum-based material. And there are some natural materials within it, but I've noticed that some of the seeds actually can't penetrate the material with their roots. So you'll see some of the seeds where the roots are literally standing above the material because they can't penetrate it. Whereas with others, the roots are growing into the material. So they do, and that's made also on some they've germinated at different rates because of that. Because there's some of them they're just not able to penetrate, and they're sort of sitting on top. So
that's really interesting.
Wasn't there an Italian guy who did a piece in the 60s called Venus of the Rags, I think, which is also a subversive piece about, in his case, subversion of fine art tradition by heaping up a pile of rags with a Venus in the background, I think. And, no, you didn't know. I just wondered whether this is a conscious riff on that tradition.
I'll look him up.
Okay.
Venus.
It was the Venus of the Rags. Was he called Pistoletto in all good artistry? No. He's Arte Povero, is all I know.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Yeah. With the materials afterwards. So actually, yes, I should have said that. So actually, the majority of these clothes, well, there are some bits from Madeline's mending bricks, the offcuts. There's also in here some uniforms and clothes that we found in the shop. But the majority of the clothes that I used in the work were charity shop rejects. So they were unwanted clothes that people had taken to the charity shop to actually it was Oxfam, and they didn't want them. So they normally send them off to recycling. So I sort of have intercepted that process, so I've got them from there, and then afterwards. They've actually said I can take them back. But some of them I feel. I'm going to be sorting them out. I'll be washing them and sorting them out because there's quite a lot of clothes here actually which I still go to back to charity shops, and others will go to back to Oxfam for the recycling. So yeah. So I sort of I didn't want to use. I wanted it to sort of be a cycle in the work. I didn't want to use anything that's going to be thrown away or that was quite important.
The idea of somebody wearing something that's
yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
In this project, you can actually have young schools. Is there any organisation that's actually working on this, to actually start taking this seriously?
I don't know about organisations, but one of the things when I was first began trying out growing, I found this research article by some researchers from Pakistan, and they were researching vertical growing on knitted fabric, because as land becomes increasingly scarce, there's vertical farming is becoming a massive thing, but it's already going to be owned by big corporations. So they were researching the ability of local communities to grow their own food on actually you know, like fabrics that they've got and that sort of thing. So they were trying out like different seeds, and it was like an academic research, you know, project. But I don't know about organisations. Yeah.